99% of people that start a podcast don't make it past 20 episodes.
Right.
20.
The moment that you realize that you cannot change people's views of you, but you can change your reaction to it, that's when you actually gain the most leverage.
Your mind is going to go to a negative bias. All you have to do is identify those negative bias and then flip it around to solve those issues.
The ugly truth is that it's a slow grind. Like, you don't see every day in and out, going to the gym, sparring hard, getting tapping people. Like, that's the ugly. And you have to embrace that side of things at the same time.
Girls are fucking smart when it comes down to that shit because they have so much to lose. As far as which guy they choose.
Yeah.
Evolutionary wise, right?
Yes. Consume information, but unless you're doing something with it, then that's just mental masturbation, right?
You know that you have a limited amount of time in this earth, and you should probably just do the things that you want to do and not waste any of it. This is our 11th episode, which brings me to a point, which what we were talking about before here is that here's a fun statistic. This is coming from Alex Hormozi. We both like to listen to him. He's
the
a
GOAT.
Fucking real G when it comes to business. I've read his book, 100 Million Leads or whatever his book was.
He's got
his audio book. And one of the things that stuck out to me, man, when I was listening to his content on YouTube was that 90% or 99% of people, all right, listen to this statistic, man. I want to make this clear. I want to speak clearly on this because I want to make it very clear that 99% of people that start a podcast don't make it past 20 episodes.
Right.
20. That's, to me, I understand that everyone is on their own time and everyone has shit to do.
Right.
But if you're going to do if you're really going to go all in on a podcast, if you think about it, that's not that hard to reach. To be in the top 1% past 20 episodes. I mean, this is our 11th episode. And I get it, it's fun for us to do, Right. And I think people see podcasts nowadays as just maybe something to do because everyone and their mothers has a podcast nowadays,
right.
And it's probably just a pastime. But for me, I'm really trying to make something out of this. I want real value to reach across to people, on YouTube or whatever it may be. And that's what I've definitely been receiving from the feedback that I get from the gym and just my friends and my coworkers, that they said, wow, it looks good every week. There's a lot of progress every week.
Yeah, we're just getting better. And I think the problem is that we do live in an age of instant gratification. We did talk about this before. But if you want to achieve anything in life, you have to devote your time, energy, resources. It doesn't have to be podcasting. It can be your physical fitness, mental health, your day-to-day relationships with your coworkers, family, love interests. You just have to show up and put that time and effort into whatever you're doing right now, right? Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? You have to commit.
Yeah, for sure. That's the majority of... there's going to be a theme on this podcast just because I've gained so much knowledge from Alex Hormozi that it's amazing to what he says. And one of them is just pretty much what you said.
Right.
It's that if you can withhold instant gratification, that's what rewards people the most. As far as and look, it might even take 2 years. It might take 5 years. Yeah, it might take more. But you have to reach a certain deadline. If you're going to start this, and it makes complete sense, give yourself a timeline, say 2 years. I've heard a lot of people say this, on the YouTube that I watch and the business creators that I watch or content creators, that give yourself a timeline, If you enjoy doing podcasts, give yourself 2 years to see where it gets you. Make an episode or two every week, consistently, never miss an episode, and then see where that takes you. There's no way that the numbers are going to stay the same after doing 2 years of being consistent,
right.
Of doing a podcast. It's almost, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
If you put the inputs in, you're going to get the outputs.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever you put in, that's how you're going to take it out, right? At the end of the day, compounding interest.
That's another, that's
business
one
term.
Exactly. That's one that I want to I want to really talk about, because in another one of his videos, he says that this is just another way of saying that we don't have control of the results, okay? But what he said about business was focus on the inputs more than you do the outputs. So the outputs means you want to lose weight, right? Or you want to be 50 pounds less by the time you get to, or if you're like 180 pounds and you want to lose 30 pounds to reach 150, don't really focus on reaching 150. Focus on how much calories you intake, focus how much running you're doing, because ultimately those things are in your control, right? Because it's almost, when people say like, yeah, you know, I want to get this really good job, and I've said this in other ways, you know, on the podcast, but when people say, yeah, I want to get this job, again, that's not entitled to you. So focus on the inputs, meaning, well, what do you have to do to get that job? Say if you're going to be like some sort of architect or something, well, study architecture, learn from someone. Those are inputs that you can actually do, get coaching, whatever. Those are inputs that you can actually do, working towards to be whatever architect job that you want. Those are the outputs. So it's just a business way of saying, put in what you can control, put in the work that you can control right now. Don't worry about the rewards and the results, and just do what you can right now. And eventually the outputs will take care of itself. I think that was brilliant.
Yeah, that's the chief task in life, though, to figure out what's up to you and what's not up to you, right? Because the moment that you realize that you cannot change people's views of you, but you can change your reaction to it, that's when you actually gain the most leverage. Because there's no way that you can change a person's mind once they're set. But you can change your actions, and that's going to create a chain reaction that might change the way that they want you to feel about yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that the only thing you can control is yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know that's kind of like beat to a pulp. You know, the only thing control you is yourself. It's kind of like we beat that down. But it's true. You can't, whatever you do, a lot of people, whether it's business or whatever it is, a lot of people they're not going to support you. They're going to disapprove of it. But, you know, as you get older, you don't really care. Like, you know that you have a limited amount of time in this earth, and you should probably just do the things that you want to do and not waste any of it. Yeah, coming from a 39-year-old too. I mean, a young 39-year-old, but a 39-year-old that's definitely getting older.
39
right?
years young.
Yeah, I can feel it in my joints, dude. I can feel it in my joints.
Not as,
I get fun. I get diarrhea more often than I should. But yeah, man. But yeah, I've just been thinking a lot about, about this business. It's just, the very first thing that I said about it, that blew my mind, the past 20 thing, the past 20 episodes statistic. That's crazy to me. Right. That's crazy to me.
20 is not a lot at the same time. Like,
it's not a lot. It's not a lot. And if you're just willing to just show up. I had a talk with this friend. Now I'm gonna start talking about why I think people don't make it past like the 20 episodes. I think that'd be a pretty good subject to talk about. Right. Number one, I think they get excited to start something, and then they kind of fantasize about it in their head, right? It's kind of like they visualize it, and then they like see the way their life is, and then they get excited. But then when it comes to starting,
the reality strikes.
Exactly, the reality strikes of, well, actually doing the work. Which isn't like, you know, on camera and the final product, it looks really, really good. Once you start getting good at it, once you start getting skilled, like say for this podcast, like editing, not to say that I am, I'm still learning, like forever learning, but once you see a little bit of progress, that's what you're putting out and that's what people see. Right. So yeah, they're going to be like, oh, that's so cool, I want to do it, you know, or any other content creator that they follow. Because
it looks sexy. Like on paper, like when you watch a UFC championship fight, or like you watch a concert, like there's this talent that like performs like at his finest, right? Or like NBA, like any kind of athletic or artistic endeavor, you see the sexy part of things. Like you see the championship fights. Oh my God, I want to be a pro fighter and I want to fight for the UFC title. But the ugly truth is that it's a slow grind. Like you don't see every day in and out, going to the gym, sparring hard, getting tapping people. Like that's the ugly. And you have to embrace that side of things at the same time.
Yeah.
If you want to reach that sexiness or whatever you want to call it. So
And 90% of the time, that's what you're going to be doing.
95% probably.
Yeah, that's going to be like your life.
Right.
And then the 5% is what you're going to post on like Instagram or YouTube or something like that, right?
Yeah.
In reality.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like saying that your average Tuesday is just your like average Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, look, the majority of your days are going to be at like an average Tuesday. You're going to go to work. You're probably going to hit the gym. You're going to cook, meal prep, whatever you got to do. But I think kind of veering off here a little bit, but I'll get back to it. But yeah, it's almost like people are waiting for that vacation. They're like anticipating that vacation for a week, and then they get back, and then they just try to grind out for another vacation in like a year, which doesn't make sense. You should probably just optimize your everyday, like what you do every day, right?
Yeah.
Like tweak your workouts a little bit, add something that you enjoy doing or something that you can progress on, so that you have something to be proud of.
Yeah.
But number two, why I think, going back to it, number two, why I think like people tend to not get past that mark, that barrier of like breaking through, is I think that they just go by their feelings. So I think that, so here's another like analogy, I guess. It's like getting up to go to the gym. Again, 90% of the time, maybe 80% of the time, whatever, you're not going to feel like going. But you just have to say like, fuck it, like I'm going to go. Which in a long enough time scale, your habits will take over.
Yeah.
It's going to tell you like, hey, dumbass, like you should probably get up and go to the gym, because that's just kind of how like habits work, right? It's going to get you to get up when you don't want to.
It becomes your lifestyle after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's who you are. In your mind, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a guy who goes to the gym every day and works out, and I live a healthy life.
Yeah.
And the moment that you break that pattern is that you're going to feel bad because you don't follow your lifestyle at that time.
Yeah, you create an identity for yourself,
Yeah.
but most people, when they start, they haven't broken that barrier of having those habits, right? They haven't. Maybe they went for 2 weeks, right, or maybe 3 weeks, but it takes a long time to build a habit, right? Because I mean, like you don't have much to lose if you do quit. Actually, you do because you're not going to get healthy. Yeah, you lose everything, so that's kind of funny, but pretty much at that time you're thinking like, well, I could just go next month, and then your mind will run to get you comfortable again. Yeah. But the other thing is, so we're kind of bulldozing through this, but then the other thing is kind of like a kind of when they do get started in that, like maybe that New Year's resolution or the gym thing, or starting whatever they're trying to start, like a creative endeavor. They'll start it, and then they'll kind of be like, oh, this isn't for me, kind of fallacy, right? Like they're kind of like, oh, I don't really like to do it. But again, I don't think anyone goes through something that they like to do and are like, yeah, let's fucking do this every day, like are excited to get up about it every day. Like I'm excited to live life every day, don't get me wrong. But then if you want to be like, I think if you want to be really, really happy, you have to do difficult things. And those difficult things are within that passion that you like to do.
Yeah.
But that also entails work, right? It's not just all fun and games. It's not just kind of like, yeah, I love the shit. I just want to fucking do this forever. I don't even want to sleep anymore.
But that's when self-improvement becomes an addiction at the same time. Because if you go to a gym long enough, it doesn't have to be an MMA gym. It can be like a regular lifting gym. Once you started seeing those results, that takes over time, obviously. But when you see those biceps getting bigger, your chest is getting bigger, you're like, oh, yeah, this is what I wanted all along. And that creates that loop in your head that I can always improve. I can always get better. I can always learn new techniques from more experienced bodybuilders or whatever you want to call it. So I think that once you establish that lifestyle that we've been talking about, is that when you actually reach the dream because you're consistent.
Yeah, man. So anyway, like, yeah, I've learned a lot of lessons just from doing this, and obviously, like the martial arts background and working out has related to that about what we're talking about, right? Like about being disciplined. And listen, like sometimes I get it. Like when we're talking on these podcasts, it's kind of like I sometimes I feel like I'm on this fucking high horse sometimes, which I don't intend to, by the way. It's just I just want to let people give them an insight that they can do it too, just to give them an example. I don't really mean to say, people are just fucking lazy, because I'm just as lazy, honestly. But I'm just pretty much pointing out like our experiences and how we got there, because we have our own struggles too.
Of course.
It's not like all of a sudden we just woke up and again, we're excited to go to the gym every day and fucking do martial arts. Like, although that sounds great, and I'd love to say like, yeah, man, I'm just like fucking doing Muay Thai like every fucking day. You know what I mean? Dude, sometimes your body's not fucking functioning properly, and then sometimes you do shitty in sparring. It discourages you because you're your harshest critic, and that's every endeavor in life. It's almost like sometimes you're just not feeling it. Every guy that I talk to in the gym, like all my peers, they sometimes they're just like, fuck, like I'm just tired today, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, we had almost every excuse not to do this podcast today. Like you were tired, like it's been a long week, like I'm kind of sick, but we're still doing it. We're in the moment and we're doing it, and I'm very glad that we're here, like committed to our like promise that we talked. So
yeah, and you know what I feel right now? It's one of those things. I mentioned this to Erim before the podcast. Is that I was taking a nap right upstairs because the studio's in the house. But
see the location.
Yeah, but I was taking a nap and I was completely tired. I just I trained pretty hard this morning, but what I'm starting to notice now doing this podcast is that currently, as of this moment, is that I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm up. Like I'm
right?
up. Yeah, I'm up now. Like we're talking. I'm not even thinking about being tired. Like, but that's the product of us just starting, right? It's the product of us sitting our happy asses down on this chair, you coming here, and us just pressing record and talking.
Yeah.
That's how good things happen, man. That's how things happen. Meaning, you just have to start. You just have to get your lazy butt up. And yes, I know I don't want to be that guy. You just got to get up, But
just do it.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
I think people, including us sometimes, make things seem harder than what it actually is. Like,
True.
Yeah, just get up. It's like, yeah, just get up. point your body towards the direction where you're going to. Start doing the goddamn thing. You know what I mean?
But that's the hardest part. That is the hardest part, to start, to walk into an MMA gym. Like, I can't blame anyone. Like, think about the first time that you actually walk into an MMA gym. Like, it's an intimidating moment.
Yeah.
Because you enter a place that feels very uncomfortable at first, because you don't know anyone. You don't know how to fight. You don't know how to react properly. And these guys that you see is like, oh, damn. Like, like these guys actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest part. But once you actually get to know people better, especially like you see a black belt in jiu-jitsu or whatever, and they're like the bestest people out there, right? Because they know how hard it is for a white belt to start and keep at it, right? And that's the most welcoming people that you're ever going to see. Because like you see competition purple belts and they just want to kill you or something like that, But you see another black belt, like this guy has been doing this for 8+ years, 10 years, whatever. And this guy is there to share his experiences or her experiences, whatever, with you, so you can actually go through the motions and the things that they went through.
Yes, but going back to what you initially said, right? Why people are scared to go in martial arts gyms. Well, that's just what it is. They don't know that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like they're like, oh, he's a black belt, so, he's willing to share, like, no, all they see is, like, a testosterone-filled fucking gym.
Cauliflower ear.
Yeah, cauliflower ear. Yeah, all they see. And that's not just with MMA gyms, man. Like, this is even worse, like powerlifting gyms, right?
Yeah.
It's not... MMA gyms is one thing. Yeah, everyone knows how to fight and stuff like that. But, for the most part, you kind of get a sense of people aren't going to hurt you, for some reason, like when you walk in there. But powerlifting gym, that might be even worse for someone like that's trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
You got these big-ass motherfuckers. Like, perception is everything.
Yeah.
In MMA, guys, it's not like some of them, they're not like fucking built to a T. They're like skinny guys.
Lean.
They're lean. Yeah, they're lean. Exactly.
Yeah, because you got to be lean to fight, right?
Yeah,
Unless like you're heavyweight.
sometimes,
right?
yeah, sometimes, and they just have different body types, and I wouldn't call them intimidating body types either. It's intimidating that they could fight and they're trained, but as far as like going into, I don't know, say like the Dragon's Lair or something like that, and you see these tattooed guys and shit, all fucking, you know what I mean, all swolled up and jacked and shit.
Yeah,
that's even
steroids
more
probably.
intimidating. Yeah, if you're trying to, maybe, but that doesn't matter because it's just the perception of it, right?
Right.
It's almost like, oh fuck, like, dude, I'm just like maybe overweight or skinny, really skinny guy, and all of a sudden now I'm just out of my territory. I'm just completely out of my environment, So, yeah,
It's that
man.
comfort zone. You step out of your comfort zone, and then it becomes very uncomfortable at first. But once you get to know these people a bit better, no one's gonna judge you. No one's gonna judge you for just showing up and try to learn new skills.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, hate doesn't come from the top.
Yeah, for
Hate
sure.
doesn't come from the top.
For sure.
I love that quote, man. I love that quote.
Yeah.
It's really stuck with me. There's only like a few quotes that, I know I say a lot of quotes, but then, I got a stack of them.
Get the whole wall.
But there's some that just like I said, it's going to be on my tombstone. One of them is that you are who you hang out with. You are your environment, right? AKA. The best way I like to put it is that if you're the average of who you hang out with. So if you hang out with 5 dumbasses, you're going to be the 6th.
Yeah.
If you hang out with 5, I don't know, drug users, you're going to be the 6th. That's not to take, anything. I'm sure they're trying to better their lives. I used to be an alcohol addict, or not even used to be. I still obviously still am.
Alcoholic, that's the term,
alcoholic.
right?
Yeah, and it's just but if I were to hang around 5 alcoholics like myself, I'm again going to be the 6th. That's for sure. You're going to hang around with 5 lazy people, you get where I'm going here. Yeah, but that quote is like, and when I think when I tell that to everyone, and for the most part people know, but I don't think they take it seriously. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't think they're like, oh yeah, I get it, I know what you mean. They're like,
But
but
really?
it is hard to change your environment sometimes though, because you do have the friends that you have, you work with them, you see them constantly, but you just have to be aware, of like your surroundings and how people talk and what their tendencies are, and that just takes over time.
So think about this, like if you can pause, I mean obviously not every single decision that you make, but in major decisions, pause and think that this decision that I'm about to make is gonna slingshot me towards the goals that I want to achieve. And if you have that mindset, I bet people are gonna make like smart decisions. Even though like I do tend to make some bad decisions in my life.
All of us do.
Yeah,
all of us. And it's gonna happen. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was, like doing this stuff too. Like now that we are, this podcast is teaching me a lot, just about human behaviors and stuff like that. But one of the things that I'm experiencing is that, and not maybe, but I just haven't found it yet, is like-minded individuals that do the same thing. Not even just podcasting, but do like the creative stuff. Yes, we see a lot of like Instagram creators, but those are the ones that like go viral and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, oh, there's a bunch of them out there. Yeah, there probably are, and like all across the globe.
Yeah.
There's not a lot when you start doing the stuff like that the majority of people don't do. My point is like it kind of gets lonely. You know what I'm saying? Because it gets harder to like relate to people.
Right.
That to say doesn't like make you special or anything, but it's almost, if you think about it, I think the statistics are like, if you do this is a crazy one. Here's another statistic for you. If you do 10 push-ups a day, you're already ahead of 100 million people.
Oh wow, it's just.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can
like the
imagine
standard, the fucking standard
So low.
is so fucking, the bar is set piss low.
Right.
It's set so low amongst like just trying to get in shape.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, let me say that again. if you do 10 push-ups, okay, every day, just 10 push-ups daily, you're already ahead of 100 million people.
Yeah. That's a crazy statistics, by the way.
That's wild. That's even more wild than the podcast statistics that I kind of said, right?
Right.
And again, I don't want to keep making disclaimers, but I don't want to, like, I'm not making fun of those people, man. It's just, dude, part of it is just, we're just so consumed by everything that's going on. You know what I mean? And there's some messages on whatever the fucking, what you see on like the media. It's like, it's okay, body positivity. It's like, no, dude, you're going to get a heart attack.
Yeah.
If you don't eat right.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's sad to say, but eating healthy, you're in the top blah, 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 right? You're in the top 15% or whatever. It's like, dude, the top 15%, you know, like if you notice there's a pattern here now, if you notice there's a pattern, all the good things, right? Like all the things that you're supposed to be doing, like working out, eating properly, what else? Starting like a business. No, you don't have to start a business. I'm not saying that. But then there's not a lot of them that like do it. Yeah, it's just fuck. Like you're putting yourself literally in that entourage of like the top 5.
But let's look at that, the statistics that you just like told me about in like an evolutionary perspective. Like our bodies are evolved to preserve as much as energy as possible, because for the longest time in human history we lived through scarcity. Like we didn't have this resources that we have today, the hunter-gatherers, and then like the whole farming stuff, like the agricultural revolution or whatever. So that's when we actually had the abundance. And now that we actually live in post-scarcity, like resources are not scarce right now. You can make money and buy whatever you want, right? That's the society that we live in at the moment. But our bodies, they're not aware of that. Like our body still thinks that we're in the savannah hunting elk, deer, whatever, you know, still thinks that it's hunting by the leopard. So our bodies are evolved into like preserving as much as energy as possible. So us going to a gym and working out and try to consume more calories than we actually eat, try to burn more calories than we consume, is like reverse to our evolution, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, this is the theory, okay? Since we have a lot more, so the evolutionary thing is actually, we were always scarce of like sugars and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like the berry theory. It's kind of like, oh, you find berries and then you kind of like hog it because it's so hard to find. You could get killed. You can, right, never come back from like your hunt, whatever. But now since we have it, we just gorge it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here we are. So yes and no. Our body is programmed to, you know, find as much food or eat as much food as possible. But now since we have it here, we're over consuming it. And that's from the evolutionary psychology from David Buss, by the way. Okay, I just didn't pull that out of my ass. But yeah, that's just what we were meant to do. Just like the lion theory, right? You're meant to fucking run when you see a fucking lion.
Right.
When you see food, you're meant to gorge out on it just because it was so scarce, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the other way.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
yeah.
it's pretty much how humans work. I mean, it's kind of like why we work out. It's because we need hard things to do.
Yeah.
Because that's how we were programmed.
Yeah.
We do. Like,
Yeah.
people
Chop
are taking
wood, carry
fucking...
water.
Yeah,
That's
people are taking fucking cold plunges and shit. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm sure there's a lot of health benefits. I'm not in that expertise, but
The one in PI is like Performance Institute is crazy. The cold plunge over there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I bet.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I take like cold showers and all that stuff, but
that's another level.
yeah, the
right?
cold plunge is like a different beast. I
Yeah.
felt like I was like, yeah, I take cold showers all the
Right,
time.
right.
Like how hard could it be?
Yeah.
But then I just like dipped here.
Yeah.
And,
You're like, oh, no, yeah.
like, I was like right here, you know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's what I mean. It's like people are finding you're meant to do hard things, you know? You're meant to do hard things for sure. Like hunt and stuff like that. It's just we kind of lost that along the way since of the abundance that we have. The other way, right? Like the instant gratification stuff, quote unquote. Like with too much consumption of information even.
Yeah.
Too much porn, you know, all that stuff. But
And
yeah, man.
like the thing is that there's another term called like mental masturbation.
Yeah.
So if you, even though like you're not like watching TikTok or like playing video games, all you do is that watch YouTube or like read or consume information, but unless you're doing something with it, then that's just mental masturbation, right?
Yeah.
So you're not like actually producing anything, and that's why I like this podcast.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That's good. That's really good. Yes, because in some sort of way, that's what I'm currently fighting with, right? It's just of recently that we decided to do this podcast, like 2 months ago, right? That's very recent. Now, before that, when I quit alcohol, that's when I hyper consumed a lot of things, right? Self-help books. It's kind of like, I'm on this momentum kick because I quit alcohol. What can I do to improve, stack my skills in life? Which is great, right? But then it almost makes me, that's exactly what it is. It's mental masturbation.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like I'm watching self-improvement porn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's making me feel good without having to do anything. It's kind of like, I got it.
I'm
like,
a man.
it's like, eventually that's what I'm going to do.
But
So here's the fight. Here's why I bring that up. Now, yes, that's very, very true. You can get consumed in the self-development space without actually doing anything. But would you rather be where you were at and consuming Netflix and porn and video games? Or would you rather be consuming self-improvement stuff?
option B.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somewhere along the way, it goes in your subconscious, and it may take a while, but at least you're consuming like the good things. I mean, if you do it properly and consume the right things. But that's what I had a fight with for a while. I'm like, I'm not actually doing anything. But then, eventually you're going to feel like shit from consuming all those self-improvement, mental masturbation stuff. Because that's what you're doing, essentially, is you're mental masturbating. And here's the other thing about that, relating to quote-unquote mental masturbation, is that you're also theory crafting, which means when you overthink something, right? Say you go to sleep at night, or before you go to bed at night, you're thinking about like how to do shit and how you're trying to solve problems and stuff like that. And that's where people get caught up. That's called theory crafting, because they try to think their way out of the problem, or they try to think their way to solving the problem. You know what actually solves a problem? Doing the damn thing, right? Doing the actual problem and taking it head on and not overly thinking about it. So another framework, and I'll go into this in a little bit, but another principle is just that. Another Alex Hormozy hitter was if you want to be something, do it. Most people have it backwards, right? They think they need to be it and then do it.
That doesn't work like that, right?
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
They need to do it and then be it. That's how you need to do something and then become it. Right? It's like saying that, it's like, when I have a six pack, I'll start going to the gym. Like what?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? When I'm a black belt, I'll start doing martial arts.
Right, smart.
Right, but you can't blame these people. Like I get it.
Right.
When I get more handsome, I'm gonna talk to a girl. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like there's all these like excuse-filled things in your head, and I completely get it, because we all have insecurities, and I think that's what they are.
Yes.
I get it. That's why we'll make up excuses. But again, it makes no sense. If you break it down and think about it, it makes no sense. So you just have to, dude, this sucks. And I feel like a broken record for saying this, but you just have to do the damn thing, even though you don't know what to do.
Right.
Walk your happy ass towards that direction. And here's an example. If you want to talk to that girl, open your mouth and start talking.
Yeah.
There's no strategy here.
No.
You could come up with those strategies like later when you kind of get feedback, right? Like you can start iterating those, tweaking those like little practices that you've gone through, and then you can consciously think about it and then go do the damn thing.
Right.
But if you're just starting off, or even when you're already good at it, just fucking do the damn thing. That's how you get good at something, is do the damn thing. Yeah.
The best way to do it is that once you make eye contact, I think we talked about the subject in our previous podcasts.
Yeah.
But once you make eye contact, you have to like do it right away without like overthinking it.
Yeah, for
'Cause
sure.
if you think about like, what am I gonna say? How is she gonna react? Like what's the next move? Don't think about that. Just approach, say hi, introduce, handshake, break the touch barrier, and then move forward. And that energy is gonna spread. But if you see her like a couple of times, and like if she smiles at you, and you see her again, and she's like still smiling, and the third time she's looking at me, like, what's this weirdo doing? You don't want to create that.
No.
And then you approach, and then it becomes even more weird. So, you create that downward spiral.
Yeah, it also shows like a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
They see, dude, girls are fucking smart when it comes down to that shit because they have so much to lose. Like as far as which guys they choose, evolutionary wise, right?
Yes.
They could get pregnant and then the guy could just leave without any fucking punishment. You know what I mean? Like, well, it's their kid. We have laws in place nowadays. But then it's like, they're the ones that have to take the majority of the hit. Like actually almost all of it, right? Because they have to get pregnant for 9 months. After that, they have to like, there's postpartum depression. Like that's a real thing. And they're like with that kid. And again, the guy can just be like a deadbeat and leave. That's why they're very smart when it comes to picking and choosing. That's why I don't blame them. You know what I mean? Like they like who they like, and for whatever reason that is, even though they're not the secure guy that most majority of the guys want girls to like, because essentially they like who they like. Well, they're picky and choosy because I think it's because of that. It's almost like, hey man, if I'm gonna have like a kid with someone, they're probably thinking if I'm gonna have a kid with someone, then it's gonna be to my liking and it's gonna be my fucking choice, right? Like that's essentially why. Why they choose the guys that they do. But anyway, before we kind of end it, so I wanted to talk about this, the principles of like invert. I need to talk about this because it was so good. It was so good. Another Hormozy, greatest hits, the GOAT. But he was saying, he got this actually from Charlie Munger, which is Warren Buffett's partner.
Yeah. He passed away last year, I think.
Yeah. He was like fucking
93 or something.
It's crazy. That was a good life to live. But anyway, he was saying the principles of like invert, right? So what that essentially means is that figure out like the problems that you have and figure out the things that you're not doing, right? Figure out your weak sides. This is just an example, but figure out what's not your strong suits about yourself, right? Say if you're not like charismatic, or say if you're like weak or something, figure those problems out, figure out what's wrong, and then turn it around and do the opposite.
Yes.
You know why? Dude, the concept blew me away. The reasoning why is because our brains are evolved to find problems.
Negatives, yeah.
Yes. If you can do that, if you can identify it, because your brain is so good at identifying problems, then you could just flip it around and solve the issue. Yeah. Just do the opposite of whatever your negative brain is thinking, whatever it's like leaning towards to. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just weak. Well, do the opposite. What do I have to do to not get weak? Right? Like go to the gym and stuff like that. Well, I'm not that charismatic. I'm not that social, because your mind will go there as a negative bias right away.
Interesting. Yeah.
Turn it around and say, well, let me get more social. How do you get more social? Well, let's see. Just go up to people, say hi, make eye contact, ask them questions, ask them about their past experiences, and be genuine about it, right? So identify what your problems are and just invert it. That's why it's called the law of inversion.
Right. It's definitely easier to find 5 things that goes wrong with your life than the 5 things that you're grateful for.
Yeah, it's a negative bias. Yeah. But it could be a very powerful tool if you use it right. But that principle just blew my mind. I was like, because everyone's also insecure that we could easily find a problem. I could say like, he put it like this. It's like, well, I could tell you like 10,000 problems that I have, It's and when you think about like 10,000 positive things, no one wants to go around saying that shit. No.
Yeah, my life is so good.
Yeah, I'm so strong, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
Ugh.
But then if you were to find like 10 problems about you, I'd be like, yeah, my knee hurts. You know, I'm kind of fucking like just. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I haven't showered in like 5 days. We'll take a shower. You know what I'm saying?
Ugh, I was wondering what the smell was.
Yeah, but stuff like that. So again, I wanted to bring this up because it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important is that your mind is gonna go to a like negative bias. All you have to do is identify those negative bias and then flip it around to solve those issues. And when you could identify only one or two things that you can solve and focus on, those are where like the real problem solving skills start to happen.
Right.
So find one or two, don't overwhelm yourself, invert it, and then find a solution to get those strengths, to fix those problems.
Right.
But anyway, all right, man, 11 episodes deep in the books.
Going strong.
Yeah. We have, not to count it, but we have 9 or 10 more to get to the top 1%.
21 episode mark.
That ain't shit.
That's just a start, dude.
Yeah, and I fucking love doing this
Prologue,
shit, dude.
yeah.
I love doing this shit.
Right.
Now I'm up.
Yeah.
Like an hour ago, I was just fucking tired.
Yeah, me too, bro. Like,
Yeah, now I'm up. Like I'm halfway through my nitro cold.
that
brew.
also helped probably.
Yeah, it's the long version. I was like tired, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a coffee. You see what I did there?
Yeah. Oh.
All right, perfect, man. All right, cool, man.
Episode 11.
And the books. All right.